My name is Archi, as Ken mentioned, founding managing partner at Asia2G Capital. We have 3 panelists from previous sessions. In Chao was my longtime supervisor from Samsung Energy, and also now he's a lifetime mentor. And Kang Lee is leading AI initiatives at Krafton. And finally, Ryan is a co-founder at Ping Pong Company. Yeah, please just come to the stage. So we are mainly talk about how enterprise companies can leverage AI capabilities. And obviously, AI becomes the new growth engines for enterprise. And if you look at the top 10, the most valuable companies in the stock market, most of them are AI companies. So every single company wants to embrace AI capabilities, but definitely AI it's not a magic here. Thank you. Yeah. So from the strategic use of AI, we need to think about some key questions. So my first questions to the panels is, the first one to Dr. Chao. You have a lot of several experiences from Samsung Energy and SK to lead AI initiatives. So the company has limited resources. So how did you identify the areas where AI can bring the most values?
Thank you for the great question, Archi, and thanks for having me here too. My time while I was a senior exec at some of the companies, when we experimented on AI was a few years ago, really. It started about 5-6 years ago when I was working for a company called SK Telecom. And then it was really until about end of 22 when I was deeply involved with some of these work. So that's really before the times of the ChatGPT and the explosion of AI. So, but during those times, AI was much less known and much less experimented on. So, but I think maybe sharing some of the experience today, 2 to 3 years down the road, may shed some insights. Because I've been wearing the hat of a executive. I was once a CEO of a large company for about 4 years. So there are all kinds of conflicting requirements put on these executives. So one of the things that we, the senior execs, and as a senior exec, really wanted to make sure was that our organization was not going to fall behind the curve. And but also because of the lack of resources, we didn't want to stay too far ahead either. So to try to balance the timing, not too late, not too ahead, and also make the decisions to work on a right problem was going to be very important. Because again, the resources are not great, even for mid-sized companies that I led. The last company where I was a CEO, we had a revenue of over $500 million. But there was a target for profitability for about operating profit of about $50 million. So to make that happen was already challenging enough. And to have to expend money on research and data science engineers and AI and machine learning specialists and so on, that was going to take a huge toll on the operating profit anyway. And we didn't know when these things would start to pay off. So initially, what we wanted to focus on was much more operational. And then, in the IT services world where I came from, there's a saying that regardless of the size of the problem that you want to tackle on, you will eventually go home, right? So usually you're advised to start small and accumulate small victories and announce the victories so that you can basically create crumbs, and you can be crumbs too, to go on and eventually scale up. being a very impatient person, and I didn't think that that I would have 7, 8 years at the company as a CEO. So we decided complete opposite track, where the moment when we decided to work on AI and machine learning projects, we asked around, what's the single biggest expense item as far as the processes go? In the group where I operated at, the CJ group, so the question was, what is that single process for any of these companies? Turned out it was a strategic grains purchases process for one of the constituent companies, which is Korea's largest food product company. So they spent about $3 billion a year buying about 6 different grain types from the commodity markets of the world. And they bought it in exactly the traditional ways, depending on the human expertise of the grain traders. Then asking around, and I think Sean just left, but depending on some of the mentors of my own and human intelligence, so we kept asking questions like this. Who do we know can purchase grains from the commodity markets the best? Who can buy the cheapest? And what kind of methodologies do they use? And we never were actually able to find the exact group. The street talk was that some people can buy up to 15% of the average price. We never were able to actually meet that particular group. But we were able to locate a data science company using geospatial, the satellite, low Earth orbit satellite observations. By the company name was Descartes Labs, based in here. And we were told that if you work with them, maybe there's a chance to slash the purchasing price by about 3 to 4%. It turned out that eventually there was a road to slash to about 6%. Now the company was spending $3 billion on this, so if they were going to be able to slash 6%, right, and the operating profit of the company was less than 5%, that would have meant that to save this much amount, they would have to actually have more than double the revenues. So that was exactly the problem that we went after. And we spent about $500,000 during about 6 months. Half of that went to Descartes Labs, half of that within our own team, science engineers. Eventually, after about 6 months, our people were able to learn enough from Descartes Labs counterparts, and were able to make a model that would prove to slash about 4%. So that was a great, but the model was not able to, right before we were able to actually produce it and then make it operational, what happened was the pandemic. So everything fell apart. There was no model in the whole world which could predict something like a pandemic, right? But then in the next 2 years or so, we really picked on such problems, the most transformative problems that we could find. In 2 years, and Archi was a great partner too, because he was instrumental in finding those technology partners from the Silicon Valley who would work with us. We did 9 projects in total. Eventually, 2 of the projects became operational by these sister companies, and some of them were really big. I tell you, I'm probably talking too much, but one thing I'd like to tell you is that in that journey of digital transformation or AI-based transformation, eventually what we felt was that this process was not about really the technology or even the process. It was really about trying to discover organizations and leaders and people in the field who are brave enough and leaning towards making changes. Because due to many reasons, the existing processes, existing philosophies or whatever, the chances of people really wanting to make changes turned out to be really small. It was very difficult to find people and organizations who would actually want to do this by themselves. In one case, in one project, we were able to increase sales by 2.2 times, and increase profit by 80% in real life A/B testing in B case, we used advanced machine learning. We used for price automation actually. But after this result was obtained, the organization who was in charge of that experiment declined and refused to take it operational. The reason cited was, first, if they had done that, then they were afraid that of scolding from the executives. Why didn't you do this before? What were you doing before all this, right? And the second thing they were afraid of was that if we did this, the next year we'll get a target which is going to be 2.2 times higher than this year. And there was no incentive mechanism to actually to incentivize them to want to do changes. So just one company, well actually not one company, 10 companies in the particular group. But I think that the journey will be fraught with these kind of roadblocks and a lot of discoveries. But I think eventually some of them, as I said too, in that company's case, 2 groups of operational groups in that large and very old startup group still wanted to do it and took it operational. Took a lot of time and effort and a lot of pains. So I think the patience, perseverance really is important. But I think if you're a leader who wants to convince your customer to take the journey of the transformation, especially with AI and machine learning, I think something that you all want to think about is that change is not easy. It takes patience really. So.
Yeah, thanks for your detailed explanations. I
to
actually have another question to Ryan. So traditionally, content creation is very time-consuming and mundane process. And when you just initiate the AI projects with your team members, how do you measure successful KPI and criteria? And any challenges that you faced with it? Just please share with us. Definitely, there will be many failure cases, right?
Yeah, it's quite a tricky question and also difficult question. And in my opinion, actually, the procedure of the creating content, sometimes it looks mundane, but sometimes quite sparky and very exciting moment. Think of that we have do some pre-production, main production, and post-production. In terms of pre-production, it's actually from the scratch. In that case, we are having lots of ideas. When you think about that, there is somebody who presents the idea of the all new like speed. In that case, how do you explain the speed? Maybe it's something like a Die Hard in the car. The Die Hard in more than 80 kilometers like that. It's something like a trial and error. We could do anything, but after we decide the concept in terms of main production, like you said, it should be the battle with efficiency. Also, time to market is very important. So maybe using AI, we should think of what is the purpose of the AI. It could be something like to the top level, that means generating lots of revenue, or maybe to the more the bottom level, like something decreasing the cost. I think we should define the purpose and goal of the AI. Then after that, we're going to make KPI based on the goal or purpose. But in my opinion, it's better to maybe Kang will give you the more good answer.
Yeah.
That's a great answer, I guess. Yeah, I guess we also divide the production into 2 phases. The first phase is the creative part, where it takes like forever, random ideas turn into game, or the seed of the new game. So that's the creative part. We definitely believe AIs will completely transform the way we are developing new creatives right now. Right now, we are entirely depending on a few geniuses we have. And it's very isolated with a small set of genius people to come up with this new creatives. Our CEO CH1 was one of these creative who came up with this PUBG item. And then the rest is production. So today I already talked about the production part, and right now we have several KPIs that we can use to measure how efficient our production pipeline is before and after AI. We actually measure how much time do they use for drawing each concept art before and after concept art. when we see the reduction in time and so forth. But for creatives, we don't have any pipelines right now. But that's our long-term goal. And maybe for those things, we should also come up with the new KPIs.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing great insight and experiences to the audience. And yeah, please give our panelists a big applause.